you're up.
When we introduced our previous author, Mike Nemeth, we considered announcing him as George's best fiction writer. And our next author corrected us and said George's best male fiction writer. So not to put any pressure on her, but ladies and gentlemen, Kathy Nichols.
Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun being here today. And as he said, I'm Kathy Nichols. I'm author of The Sometime Sister, as well as The Unreliables. And I come from a long line of storytellers. My dad's side of the family were very colorful characters who had, I guess you could say, maybe a loose working relationship with the truth. But I loved hearing them tell their stories, and much to my mother's dismay, often repeated their stories. And it didn't take me too long to figure out that I wanted to write my own stories. And I did start writing early. I had a bit of a delay because I also taught high school for many years. And I wrote along the way, but as those of you who have tried to write and know that you have a job and a career and a family, it's very difficult to balance. And so I have less to balance now, and I've had more time to spend on it. And I love writing, even when I hate it. I love it when my characters are talking to me. My husband has come on in the room many times when I'm talking back to them. He's decided it's okay, that I don't need therapy. I just need a quiet room of my own. And I don't even mind the pain of editing because, and rewriting, because it's kind of like taking out a piece of favorite jewelry that's gotten tarnished, and you get to polish it, and then you get to look at it when it's bright and shiny. And it's when I finish the book, and the book is published, which is so exciting because they come in the boxes, and you get to unbox them, and you can take pictures of yourself unboxing them, and then you have to market them. And unless you're James Patterson or Stephen King or a number of authors that you've heard of, you have to do a lot of that marketing yourself. And that does not come naturally to me. I don't mind telling you about my books and how much I love my characters, but it's hard for me to, the buy my book, which, by the way, I hope you'll buy my book. But and I love coming out and talking to book clubs. That's so much fun. It's like your children are behaving well and everybody gets to see them and talk to them. But and even the book festivals are great because you can talk to people and ask them, what do they like to read? You don't have to always be pushing your work. But what I realized, several people will tell me, and I try, I venture out. I do Instagram. I've always done Facebook. I've been playing on TikTok. Don't worry, I do not dance on TikTok. There is a book talk section of TikTok, which is really fun. And I've been just playing with it. I'm going to spend a lot of time working on it. But the real basic marketing, I realize you have to understand not just your characters in your book, you really need to understand your audience so that you can help them understand you and get them to want to know you better and want to read your book. So I looked at the concept of branding, which is really funny because the first thing I thought of was that little old lady who would come up to the counter angry, bent over but angry and scary, and demand, "Where's the beef?" Well, Wendy's campaign was directed at older people because at that time they had a lot of families that were eating at Wendy's and enjoying it, but older people were still kind of like, man, they were not into the fast food thing. Well, they had one of the oldest demographics of the 11 fast food chains, but they had one of the youngest, I'm sorry. But after that campaign, if you go by any Wendy's and you're on the way like to Florida or someplace, you're going to see buses of old people. And those, well, I shouldn't say old people because I'm among them, but senior citizens. And they are flocking to Wendy's. And it's because of the little old lady with "Where's the beef?" Even more recently, the oldest demographic was at Arby's because Arby's has been around a long time, and young people, particularly millennials, were not going to Arby's. They just didn't. And they came up with that campaign, "We Have the Meats," which kind of makes me queasy, but it did not make millennials queasy at all, and they have had a 16 to 20% growth in the millennial population. And you're probably thinking, so what? What has it got to do with readers and writers? But I realized that I needed to come up with something that at least I understood how I was trying to reach people, what I needed to do, and how they could get to know me through a fast way. I mean, I love being able to talk to people, but you can't always get to everyone and talk to them. So I went back and I thought about my books. I love writing mystery and suspense. I love strong female characters who often don't realize how strong they are, and that they can overcome a lot of very difficult things that I think are pretty relatable to people in general. And I'm just crazy about characters. My husband will often come in when I'm not talking to my characters. I'm watching the Law and Order, all of them, Special Victims, Criminal, not Criminal Minds, but Criminal something. And I'm watching all of those, and I know those people. Those are like my friends. And I want my characters in my books to be like friends of the people. So I thought, okay, what does that mean? Mystery, suspense, characters you like. And I'm a member of the Atlanta Writers Club and was lucky enough to win a critique with this really generous author named Jenny Milchman. And I told her in an almost apologetic tone, I said, you know, I write mystery and suspense, but sometimes they're funny. And she's like, that's getting at the heart of your brand. So she said, look at your characters and see what your characters are telling you about what you want the readers to know about them. So I'm just going to share just a couple of snippets here. The Sometime Sister, which I have to say, I found out last week my sequel is going to be published as Sometime Sister. It's going to be out in June, so I'm really excited about that. I didn't plan a sequel at all, but this is another case of my characters saying, you might think you're done with us, but we are not done with you. So I did write a sequel, and the main character of The Sometime Sister is Grace Burnett, and she's going through a very difficult time. She's battling, as a result of the death of her younger sister, she's battling grief and some guilt. And I think when she speaks of her younger sister, Stella, you can really feel her pain. That night, I dreamed of Stella. We were in the house we shared with Gran after my parents divorced. My sister and I were playing in the small backyard. She was hanging upside down from a tree branch. The day was so brilliant, I had to shield my eyes. Dark clouds appeared out of nowhere, and rain pelted down. Thunder rumbled in the background. I tried to call out to her to insist she come down. The words stuck in my throat. I wanted to run to her, but a slash of blinding light cut across the sky, rendering me immobile. My sister smiled up at me from her topsy-turvy angle, just before another flash of lightning split the air. The branch electrified with the fiery blast, and Stella was gone. I think that without even knowing too much about either character, I think you can feel what I wanted my readers to feel about Grace's loss. But I also have a great character in that book, the boy that's their cousin, Les Roy. He's not a major character, but he's majorly fun, and Grace describes him. My cousin was a year older, but always seemed younger. He was an elf-like child with bright blue eyes and curly hair that his dad insisting on mowing into a buzz cut so his son wouldn't be a sissy. Les Roy was so much a part of my life, I can't remember being without him. He never walked into a room. He twirled or tap danced or spun into it. Together we designed elaborate castles constructed of discarded items we gathered throughout the neighborhood. A dilapidated dresser with a broken mirror became the evil queen's prophetic looking glass. A rickety ladder led to Rapunzel's tower. We collected smooth stones from the creek behind my house and turned them into an army of trolls who guarded us as we took impromptu naps on blankets piled inside our palace. So I think you get a nice picture of the family, the tragic part, the fun part. In The Unreliables, more tragedy. You know, if you're writing mystery and suspense, you usually have to kill someone. The narrator is an author, Kara Conrad. Her husband's been murdered. The police say it's just a random killing, and she doesn't believe it. The book opens in a very ordinary setting, the grocery store, but you can tell pretty fast it's not ordinary. One minute I was standing in the produce department comparing the prices of seasonal fruit. The next I was sitting in the middle of the cereal aisle surrounded by boxes of honey and oat Goldios, rolling blueberries, and uniformed personnel. The time between these events was a blur. I remembered pushing my cart out of the produce section to the dairy display and stopping in front of an unending sea of yogurt. Incapable of deciding what I wanted, I gripped the handle so tightly my knuckles whitened. Once a person who weighed her options and made calm, rational choices, I was unprepared for this recent version of myself, someone for whom the smallest decisions have become monumental. Should I get out of bed and face the day or crawl back under the covers and wait for nightfall? Did I want to wear sandals or tennis shoes? And now, would it be Greek or regular? Despite the cool air emanating from the refrigerated shelves, beads of sweat gathered at the base of my neck. I backed away from the counter and cut my cart hard to the right, speeding toward the wine section. I was so fixed on the gleaming oasis of deep reds and pristine whites and bubbly pinks that I failed to notice a giant cardboard honeybee perched atop neatly stacked boxes in the middle of the aisle. If it had been any other cereal, any other variety, I might not have lost it, might have made it safer to the checkout line. But those little golden oats, coated with tiny droplets of honey, glazed me with a thick haze of despair that quickly morphed into rage. My next moment of clarity was staring up at the round, flushed face of the store manager. "Please, ma'am," his voice drifted toward me as if from a great distance. "Are you able to get up or should I call someone?" Faced with another impossible decision, I could only shake my head before grabbing one of the cereal boxes and crushing it against my chest. "I'm perfectly fine," I said. "It's just that I forgot the cereal. It was the only thing he asked for and I forgot it. So I really need to get home so he won't have to..." But I couldn't recall what he wouldn't have to do. I did, however, remember. There was no need for me to hurry home because there would be no husband waiting for me. That husband was dead, and I was the reason he was gone. So I think pretty fast you see the contradiction between the normal and the life that's never going to be normal again. I'm only going to give you a little bit of Trust Issues, which comes out in December 15th. I have another strong female protagonist, Clara Kincaid. She's a public relations specialist. She fixes problems of her clients. In the PR firm, she's good at it, but not so good at fixing her own problems. The first of her problems is a conflict between her mother and her grandmother. According to family legend, my mother was conceived in a van almost immediately after Janis Joplin's iconic performance of Peace in My Heart. My grandmother, Sarah Claire Davis, or Jams as she preferred because it reminded her of her jamming days, loved to repeat the story. Mom's less than enthusiastic about mom's less than immaculate conception at every possible and an opportunity. As enthusiastic as my grandmother was about the details of the event, concert, and conception, Mom was equally unenthusiastic. So I think that suspense with heart and humor you can see, and I hope that you'll check out my novels and let me know if I have the meats.
And what's your website?
Kathy-Nichols.com.
Kathy, we thank you for gracing us today, and you've been an absolute positive here today, and we'd love to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you.